I'll be happy if people want to reach out to me later on. If you have questions, there might be time at the end of today as well. But if you have questions, we can get into more detail that way. Here's what I want to highlight about the platform that has been used by Avenue and the sort of theoretical and evidence-based perspective that has led into how it's been created. So I think we all know, if we've interacted with kids, that infants, when they're learning their first language, learn to perceive sounds before they begin to produce them. Now, second language learners, it turns out, follow much the same path with obviously some caveats related to how difficult it may be to learn to perceive sounds in a new language. But that's not the kind of approach that is typically used in ESL or language learning classrooms. That is, we recognize that learners, adult learners in particular, want to learn how to produce things as quickly as possible. And so we think that we can somehow jump over the perceptual part. So this training platform really tries to address that by focusing on perception, because there is strong evidence from research, including research that I've been fortunate enough to conduct, that shows that improvement in perception automatically leads to improvement in production, whereas the opposite is not the case. If you teach somebody how to produce something, it doesn't necessarily change their perception, and we need a change in their perception in order to lead to permanent change and hopefully in spontaneous language use. Well, the training paradigm that's used by my website, English Accent Coach, which is embedded in the Avenue application, is called High Variability Phonetic Training. It has three key features. One of them is that it includes multiple voices that are used. Research shows that if you use minimal pair training with a single voice, that doesn't generalize to new voices. And fortunately, if you even have 6 to 10 voices, you get robust transfer to new voices. And a second key feature is that the sounds that are being targeted have to be presented in multiple phonetic contexts. So you can't assume, for example, that E and I, if you present it in heat and hit, is going to lead to learning that transfers automatically to new words like seat and sit. And then finally, feedback on perceptual accuracy is essential. Learners need to know when they're perceiving things correctly or not, and the platform, of course, does that on an item-by-item basis. English Accent Coach also follows the intelligibility principle, which emphasizes not that learners should have native-like pronunciation, but rather that they should have pronunciation that listeners can understand, whether it be foreign accented or not. And that has led me and people that I've collaborated with to focus with respect to vowels on only 10 of 14 Canadian English vowels, because the major diphthongs I, ow, and oi, which are excluded from the training platform, are already very salient to learners from different first language backgrounds, and therefore the perception of these vowels, in contrast to the other vowels, comes for free, essentially. There's not a lot of confusion. And schwa is similarly not taught because it's not contrastive and is related to stress patterns on the syllable. But that's where I will leave it for now to explain sort of the thinking behind my website that's used and embedded in Avenue.
Are you talking to me?
Turn it back to Sepideh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomson, for providing us with this overview of the theoretical background and the framework that has guided and informed the design and the creation of this pronunciation course. For teachers who would like to implement this course alongside with their other link classes, there is more mandatory training available on the English pronunciation training course on Avenue.ca. So this is your Avenue homepage, and so I'm just going to go to the pronunciation training course, which is for teachers. You get into the course, and so in the main topic of the course, you have an overview of English pronunciation on Avenue. The first activity is a very short video, about 6 to 7 minutes, about the background on pronunciation training for second language learners. After the video, you have an article, and this article is chosen from a pool of tens of state-of-the-art articles about pronunciation training. However, we didn't want the training to be too long, so we had to pick this one, and we felt that this one was the most relevant to our link learners who have a CLB, who are following, in fact, a CLB approach to language learning. So this paper was authored by Professor Thomson and published by the Canadian Centre for Language Benchmarks. So we found it was really relevant to our audiences. The first part of this paper is an introduction, and it covers the theoretical aspects of pronunciation training in English. And as you move towards the end of the article, there are suggestions that can inspire teachers to implement activities into their link courses for stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 learners. So if you find that the material in the course is not enough for your learners, you're always free to create new ones and add them to your course. And you can always use these suggestions in this article. After reading this article, there is a quiz. Teachers need to pass this quiz with 70% accuracy to move on to their certificate section, which is the topic below, and also get the pronunciation course for their students. Before I go to the next topic, I'd like to talk about this link a little bit. So this is a listening diagnostic test that we are going to use for our students in this course, but it is really a link to the English accent coach designed by Dr. Thomson. Now, the reason that we chose this is, first of all, it's based on academic research, so it's very reliable. And then it's the gamification element of the program. So it's interactive. People listen to sounds and then they click on what they heard. So there's a gaming element. And then at the end, after they finish, they receive a report, and they can send the report to the teacher to assign them to chapters or units, rather, that they need to study. So it's a very easy website to navigate. All they need to do is to register first, and then using those credentials, they log in and they click on play. Now, there are lots of things to do on this website. They can practice vowels and consonants, and there are several levels for each of these to play. There's no limitation on how many times students want to play the game. And the basic feature of this game is for students to improve their perception of the speech sounds. So they can listen, and it is believed that by improving their perception, their pronunciation will improve as well. However, a really cool new feature that was added is the record button that students can use in order to record their voices after they hear a sound as well. And that is also very helpful, but we recommend using that for higher levels. Right, so it's really important that after people finish doing the diagnostics test, they save the PDF report, which is generated by the program, and send it to the teacher, so the teacher can identify the points of strength and weakness and assign certain sounds to the students to study, which means that not everybody needs to study the whole course. If they are weak in one particular sound, they only need to do the activities for that particular sound. Now, as I mentioned, the course is very easy to navigate. I mean, the website English Accent Coach is easy to navigate. However, if you prefer to follow a step-by-step procedure on how to play the game, you can click here for a help file. The next feature which we have on the pronunciation course is the block that you see to the right of all of the units. And I'm going to switch here to the student course so we can explore the blocks in that course, because they are basically the same. And the reason they are here in the teacher's course is because we wanted the teachers to be able to explore the whole course and the features inside it to see how it works, so they will be able to help their learners later. And the same goes for this sample unit that goes below the first topic. So there's all the activities that you have for the learners, but for the teachers, we have a couple of guide slides in the middle of the course presentation that talk about the how the activity works and what the rationale behind the activity was. So I'm just going to go back to my homepage on Avenue and open the student course. Right, so this is the pronunciation course for students. Okay, so on the pronunciation course, again, you see the same diagnostic test for the English accent coach. So it's all the same. And we also have a speaking diagnostic test in the first topic. This test has 120 questions that cover all the 10 vowels that are taught in the units of this course. However, we do recognize that 120 questions is really long, and many people don't have the time or the patience to sit such a long test. So we do provide alternatives in the blocks next to each of the sounds, and I'm going to talk about them shortly. The first block on the student course is the IPA vowel chart. So the 10 blocks that are covered in this program are all listed here. And you can see that each symbol is given in a particular color. Now, these are inspired by the pronunciation of the word for that color and the vowel in that word. For example, the word green has the E sound. Therefore, we have provided the E sound with a green color. So as a mnemonic device, maybe people would associate these two together. So after clicking on each of the plus signs near the sound, or near the symbol rather, students will hear the sound, and they can click here to go to the unit for that sound. Now, please note that for the E sound, because it's immediately after the first topic, it's really easy to access. But if we want to go to like the ah sound, then there's a lot of navigation. Like they have to just move to the bottom of the course, and it might take too much time. So we just use this as a table of contents. They can click and go to that unit. So we'll start with the unit for the sound E over here. It starts with the IPA symbol. Again, you have the same symbol in color. And here is a very short recording for the sound.
E.
And they can listen to this as many times as they wish. As the students can, all students can click here and start the activities. But before that, we would recommend them to go to the block next to each of these units. And the reason is because the main training happens in these blocks. The training is shown as an animation first, and then we have some videos that follow, and then there's a placement test at the bottom. So they can click on the animation that Kevin has made. And these animations are fantastic because they not only show how the sound is pronounced in the mouth, they also show how the mouth moves. So sometimes it's the chin, sometimes it's the tongue, sometimes it's the other parts. So now that it's enlarged, I'm going to show it again.
E.
So you can see how the different parts are involved in pronouncing the E sound. So back to the block. We had two actors who pronounced the sounds for us with a front view and a side view, and we have the videos here. If you click here, you can watch the front view of the video of the sound. Then they click here to watch the side view.
E.
The next element in each of these blocks is the diagnostic test. Students click here and they get a quiz which is only 12 questions, which is much more doable compared to the 120 questions we had on the top. Here they can listen and repeat words that they hear in the items of the quiz, and they need to achieve a score of 70% to pass. But if they don't score 70% or higher, then they will go to the first activity in the unit. The first activity is the only activity which is available. The other ones are hidden because they need to, again, achieve 70% from this activity to unlock the next, and then 70% on this one to unlock the rest until they go to the end. Each of the H5P activities consists of a number of slides. There's lots of listening involved in these slides. So they click here to listen to a list of words using the E sound. Sometimes they're syllables, sometimes they are just a sound, sometimes longer or shorter words.
E, fee,
he, Lee,
re,
So it says listen to the E sound, but if they want to, they can also repeat it as much as they want. However, there's no recording, it's just for listening. And then they listen to these sounds, and then they drag the E sound to whichever word they think is pronounced or includes the E sound, and they click on check. They get their answers, and they go to the next one. Again, the same.
feet, neat,
cheat,
heat,
So this time there are like words that they can hear, not only sounds and syllables. So very short words. And
bead,
need, seed,
again, some more words. Another drag and drop activity, more words, and so on and so forth. Now, sometimes these activities are done in the form of pictures. So it's not only listening to something and dragging the symbol on it. Sometimes it's a picture and sometimes it's an audio or video. And as you can see, the prominent color of all the activities is green, just to reinforce that kind of mnemonic device. But again, it's not really necessary if you feel you don't want to use it. So once the first activity is completed, the second one is unlocked. It is a Moodle quiz. They listen to the sound and they identify the symbol, or sometimes they see the symbol and they have to choose the sound from a different number of choices to go with that symbol. After this, there's another pronunciation activity. Students have a picture. They listen to a recording.
Maria likes to grow veggies in her greenhouse.
So we have a number of repetitions of the sound E in this sentence, and students listen here and then they turn the card and repeat the audio. So in case they forgot the sentence, they can click here to get the keywords. Target vowel is included in these words. So back, there's another Moodle quiz, and there's more listening and speaking activities to follow. They more or less have the same format, but sometimes the H5Ps are multiple choice, sometimes they're drag and drop, sometimes they're true, false. So I'm not going to go through all of the vowel units. As I mentioned, we have 10 of them, but they all follow the same format. So all of these vowel units have 8 activities, and at the end, there is a speaking post-test, which draws from the same quiz bank of 700 questions and gives them random questions on the sound E. And if they pass with a 70% score, that means that they have learned this sound. And if they haven't, they should go over the activities and repeat them. This brings us to the consonant section of the course. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin to show the consonants, please.
Just going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see this? It should say T and D up at the top.
Yes, we can.
Hopefully. Okay, great. Okay, so the consonant sections are comparisons of sounds, and they follow the same structures, but of course the actual content varies. Let's just get into it and take a look at the first one. Okay, so this is similar to what we saw with the vowels, in that at first students are just listening to words. They're just going to listen to words. In this case, it's going to be words that begin with either a T or a D, and there's a note regarding aspiration with T. Aspiration is given here as a strong burst of air that accompanies the pronunciation of unvoiced stops, often when they occur at the beginning of a stressed syllable. So the audio here.
Die. Team. Toe.
Den.
Dab.
Is from multiple speakers. So this is just to listen to words with T and D at the beginning. The next slide has T and D at the end of the word, with a note on what these sounds do to the length of the vowel. So vowel length is talked about here. voice stops at the end of a word are not always heard clearly, but the length of the vowel that precedes them is usually longer when the stop is voiced. So a little note here. Some more
Great.
sounds.
Sit.
said,
Nod.
Okay. And then the same thing with T and D occurring in the middle of a word, and then the note sort of where T often sounds like a D, depending on the context, but it often happens in the middle of a word.
Address.
Attack.
Ladder.
leader,
Enter.
Metal.
medal,
And so forth. Okay, after that, we get to the a slide with minimal pairs. And also, I thought it would be good to put animations here that compare the sounds. So if you look at the animation, you can stop it wherever you wanted to, but you can look at the animation, you can hear it, and you can read the description of what's happening. So I think it's useful for students to be aware of what's happening in their mouth when they produce sounds, especially when, because you want to describe sometimes what's happening, and they need to be familiar with these ideas. These words,
Team.
Deem.
Toe.
dough,
Dip. Medal.
these, of course, have various speakers as well. Some of these are AI voices. Some of them are real people. Okay, and this is where students start to get a little more interactive here. A set of instructions. Click the squares to listen to the audio. Drag the T and D sounds to the words to begin. So let's just give it a try.
tie,
Let's tie.
Team.
Dough. Chan.
So maybe nothing.
10. 10.
I think that's 10, but it might sound like den to some people.
Talk. Doll.
Deer.
3.
Take. Dock. Chalk. Die.
Dip.
Okay, so I think I got them all. Okay, so it is possible to choose something that you should have chosen. So I left some of them blank. And I think it's pretty straightforward. The same thing here, but now it's the words at the end. And in this one, it's clicking the boxes to hear the audio. Drag the T to words whose second syllable begins with T. So here, we're not talking about how the words are spelled or anything like that, but just how they sound. Okay, so
External.
it's probably a T.
Water.
Eternal.
50.
That one's pretty close, actually, for me.
Return.
Attack.
Medal.
Saturn.
metric, Titanic,
Endanger. Tantrum.
Okay, so there it is. So that's the first activity. And once you complete it, you would have access to the second one. The second and third activities are just your basic listen to the audio. It's one word, listen to the word, and then multiple choice. There's going to be other words. I'll just show you. Other words, other choices. One of them is going to be the same word that you just heard, but a different speaker. So just basically
tie,
tie.
Die.
Die.
Try. Tie.
So it's that one. So it's the same thing. Listen to a word, listen to the alternatives, and choose the one that matches. The third activity is the same, but I think, yeah, the target sound is occurring at the end of the word rather than the beginning. But that takes us to the fourth activity, which is where students start speaking. So let's see, hang on a second. Okay, this makes use of the idea of the carrier phrase, because we don't want students just mimicking or immediately giving you back what they just heard. Mimicry isn't really a skill. It's not really knowledge. So it's better to put the word into a phrase and have them produce the whole phrase. Okay. So the idea that the speaker should be interrupted between hearing the word and producing the word. Let's take a look at it.
Time.
Time. So what's the time? What's the time? Okay.
talk,
We had a great talk. And so on. Okay, I think I have time to show you this one. Oh, I forgot to put an introduction slide here, but I think we could probably make sense of it. So here's two activities on this page. For the first one, which words do you hear, or do the words sound the same? So for example,
pedal,
pedal. So you heard pedal, but do these two words often sound the same? If so, right?
medal,
Metal. It sounded like metal, but do these words often sound the same? Yes, they do. Well, this one,
return,
return. Okay, you heard this one, but do they often sound the same? No, they don't. So it's return. Okay. This activity is it's the same sort of idea, but the question's different. How many words in each question include a stressed syllable that begins with T? Okay.
return,
water,
enter,
So return, water, enter. I think it's one.
attack,
attempt, address,
Attack, attempt, address. So it'd be two. Okay, and so on. I don't know how much time we have here. We good? We are. This activity.
A few more minutes, yeah.
A few more minutes. Okay, good. This activity is kind of building on it. Here we've got the same sentence is repeated a few times, but one word is variable. Wait a second. Okay, so for example,
we better talk,
we better talk.
We better talk.
Better talk.
we better talk,
Okay, so here's T and D at the beginning. We can come over here.
is that tie red?
Tie red.
is that tie red?
Tie red.
is that die red?
And I think there's examples where there is no actual choice.
It's a new time,
Yeah, it's a new time.
it's a new dime,
It's a new dime.
It's a new chime.
It's a new chime, so you wouldn't do anything. We could check these. And there you are. Okay. Okay, maybe this is gonna be the last thing that I have time for, but if you look at this, it's a pretty big, announcement. It says the birthday, a dialogue. In the next slides, you'll hear a dialogue and complete tasks by choosing words, but listen closely. Don't choose a word because you think it fits the story. Choose the word that you hear, because it's just so many times that you see, the activity where you have to listen and fill in the blanks, but you don't actually need the audio. You could just read the story and choose the words. So we don't want that to be able to happen. So include a few words that just wouldn't make sense. For example,
wow, Timmy's getting dull,
That's true. He's turning 10 on Tuesday.
then, oh, that's great,
I got him a bike, but I don't know if he can.
okay, so this is the actual conversation, and then it's broken down here so you can hear it in pieces. These words, some of them are included and some of them aren't. But let's just take a look at this.
wow, Timmy's getting dull,
So that's Timmy is getting, so it should be tall, but I don't know if it was tall.
wow, Timmy's getting dull,
Right, so dull it would be. And so on. I also included some audio in the background, like they're not sitting in perfect ideal situation in a sound lab somewhere, but they're out in a park where there's voices and people running around, because that kind of is how it would really be. So I thought that would be useful. And yeah, I got these ones right. The last slide just continues the story and finishes it. There's other things to look at, but okay, I'll just show this last one if I could. So a lot of times when I do T&D, or even when I'm not doing T&D, people want to talk about past tense regular verbs and the pronunciation of the ED ending. So let's take a look at that briefly. Wait a second. Well, whatever. So here just a quick note, a short explanation about unvoiced sounds and the ED ending. and how the ed ending sounds, right? So here's a list of them. Oops.
Walk.
Walked.
Right.
Miss.
Missed.
Yeah. So I just used short words here because I didn't want people counting syllables and wondering if it was actually correct. I just wanted them to see that, in fact, or hear, in fact, that a syllable is not being added.
Jog.
Jogged.
Right. Whereas on this page, a syllable is being added, and we can look at the stress patterns
Rent.
as well.
Rented.
Right.
Need.
Needed.
Yeah. And then here, the last 3 slides are the same. It's just more and more examples. I had to break it down into 3 slides to make these big enough to be usable. But for example, if you click on the first one,
Stopped.
stopped, right? So you drag this down to the T.
Saved.
Saved, that'll go D.
Stuffed.
Stuffed, that'll go T. One more, we'll try.
Needed.
Needed. So you heard a D and maybe you thought that's where it would go. You finish them, you click on check, and you see that you got one wrong. And which one was it? You've got the 4 here and the 4 here, so you can go back
Needed.
and see that
Needed.
actually you needed a syllable there. So there's more words here and more words here. So there should be enough practice. I guess I'm going to leave it at that for now. There's more to say, but
Yeah, that's so true. Only like 40 minutes won't do the course justice
Yeah.
because there's so much going on inside. And like we have animations that compare the different sounds with each other, how they are pronounced. And then there's so much going in each of these activities. But we don't really have time to dig really deep in them. So thank you very much, Kevin. So it seems like there are no other questions. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Ron. We really appreciate your presence here today and your leadership and your guidance through the course development.
your feedback for sure. Thank you very much.
You're muted.
Congratulations on getting it done.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later.
Okay, we'll see everyone later then. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Bye.